You are listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place. Hello and welcome to another regular edition. I'm just kidding. It's a special episode of Arcane Carolinas. I'm your co-host, Charlie Mushaw.
I am your co-host, Michael G. Williams, award-winning author. And I was going to say, welcome to a bog standard die-cast episode of Arcane Carolinas.
Just right off the assembly line.
Just like slapping them together, just like Model A's.
So this is a part of that's an old car for those of you that don't know.
I used to make them.
That would be like the most boring immortal story ever. Like, what do you do? Well, now I work a 9 to 5 in a cubicle. Before that, I made cars. Like, you just worked menial jobs and lived forever.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my guess is that if somebody were going to live forever, they got to pay rent somehow.
That's true. I just feel like there's entire genres of vampire stories about how they accumulate wealth and stuff.
Oh, definitely.
So anyway, that's not what this episode is about. This episode is a part of our fall lineup. So all aboard the fall hype train. We're recording this far in advance, so I don't have any hard dates for you.
Hey, this is Michael stepping in through the magic of editing after the fact, like a little portal in time, to let you know that I do have a date for you for what we're about to describe, and that is Wednesday, October 6th, 2021. See you then.
But I can assure you that if you check our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, or to a lesser degree, Twitter, maybe I've gotten better at that since this was recorded. I doubt it. You can find information on our virtual Halloween party, which is something we want to do. We'll do it on a weeknight at a reasonable hour so that people can get to work the next day and it doesn't cut into your weekend plans. But you can check us out on our YouTube channel and we'll have a live stream going. You can chat with us. We'll answer your chat. We'll talk. We'll play some spooky video games and relate them to North Carolina legends and South Carolina legends. We'll do giveaways, and there's going to be an additional surprise or two as a part of that. So please jump in there with us.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it. It's a sort of thing that I don't know a lot of other people have ever tried, and we've never tried it, and we're going to see how it goes. But I think that no matter what happens, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, even if nobody shows up but us, I'm going to have a good time.
That's kind of the thing. That was kind of the deal with the show from the get-go. Like, well, even if nobody else listens, we'll enjoy it.
But we know that there's people out there that do enjoy it, and we would like to hang out with you and talk about spooky stuff. So, what is today's topic, you might ask? And I have an answer for you. Today's topic is a duel topic. It is both the legend of Peter Dromgoole and the Knights of the Order of Gimghoul, because they are intrinsically linked.
Ooh, so this, I'm not going to bite into your story, but I just want to note that this was the sort of thing that people talked about to us a lot during new student orientation at UNC Chapel Hill, like 30 years ago. This would be a very hot topic then.
And beyond that, people have talked to us, you and I, about this. Like, I visited the castle in Chapel Hill, or what's up with the castle? What's up with the Gimghoul? So what was your first time hearing the legend? Was it that orientation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This would have been, I guess, probably May or June of the year that I graduated from high school. So we're looking at 30 years ago or so. And during a campus tour, somebody told us a version of the legend. And, I'm sure you're going to get to that. And their theory on who the Gimghouls were.
Okay.
And it was a topic of interest ever since. And as an undergraduate, I don't even know if they still make yearbooks. I don't know. Is that still a thing? But the UNC undergraduate yearbook would have pages for different student groups. And there's always a page for the Gimghouls, and it was in code.
So we have the cipher to decode that from the UNC library Twitter feed.
No way.
Yeah. So it's an older one. It's not current, but we'll post some stuff in the Facebook. album, all courtesy of UNC Libraries and Archives. And these are materials that have been authorized by the Order of the Gimghoul to be released.
Okay.
Before we even get started, I'll mention that there was a student at UNC a year or two ago that basically doxed the Gimghoul.
Ugh.
Yeah. So
I don't feel like that's good.
No, it's not. And that's not what we're doing in this episode. She went to the archives and pulled everything, scanned it, and put it up on a meme page on Facebook. So people had a good time looking at it and sort of uncovering their rituals and stuff, but out of respect for tradition and the fact that they want to hold some secrets, right? They exist. They want you to know they exist or they wouldn't be in the yearbook.
Yeah.
You know, and they wouldn't do things that benefit the university if they didn't want it known that they exist. But out of respect for the things that they don't want to share, we have chosen to not, well, when I say we, I chose not to hit up the archives. Those materials have since been locked down and are available at request. So the student and said, give me everything you have on the Gimghouls. They did. She scanned it all in, put it all up on this Facebook page that is made for memes. The next day, the Daily Tar Heel went and said, hey, we'd like to check out those materials that student pulled. The archive said those have since been sealed by the donor.
Yeah, that's something that's not uncommon in gifts to archives, university archives, historical foundations, things like that. I'm the archivist effectively for my fraternity's alumni association. And one of the things that we have to check every time we donate anything to the fraternity is, do we want to seal this? And if so, for how long?
Right. So they have put a seal on things older than 50 years, and we will respect that. And we will not post anything that should be sealed away. What we will post are things that are freely shared on the university library's Twitter feed. So my first time hearing about Peter Dromgoole and the Order of the Gimghoul was on the way to, I'm going to plug a local business. This is in Orange County, North Carolina, which we've already covered in the Boxing It Fairly episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll spare you the history on that. But the local business I'd like to plug is Sunrise Biscuit Kitchen.
Oh.
So probably 8 years ago at this point, I was in the car with a friend who was living in Carborough. I was visiting. And after a long night out of having a good time on Franklin Street, I was like, come on, let's go grab a biscuit from Sunrise Biscuit Kitchen. You have to try the Bad Grandpa biscuit, which is named such because it appeared in the Johnny Knoxville movie, Bad Grandpa.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's so good. It's just like the best fried chicken thigh with bacon and egg and cheese on just the most amazing biscuit. Anyway, so this is not the biscuit podcast. On the way down Franklin out of Carborough to hit up Sunrise Biscuit Kitchen, my friend was like, hey, you want to see the castle? And he was like, you like weird stuff? And I was like, sure. So we went down this little side road and we looked at the castle and I said, well, what is it? And he was like, oh, it's like Skull and Bones, the secret society. And I'm like the secret frat that is like world famous? He's like, yeah, it's like that, but like UNC's. Well, what's their deal? And he was like, I don't know. But there's the castle. That's the first time I heard about it. And I also want to mention that it is on private property. The castle is on private property. The locations of the legend of Peter Dromgoole are on private property. You are not supposed to trespass. There are signs that is clearly marked. Please don't do that.
Yeah, do not wander onto other people's land, please. Yeah. And especially don't intentionally go onto other people's land.
The legend of Peter Dromgoole directly feeds into the Order of the Gimghoul. So let's start with Peter Dromgoole and the legend. The story goes that Peter Dromgoole was a student at UNC, and there was a young lady from town whose name was Fanny. Apologies to our British fans. We understand that doesn't mean the same thing where you live. So Fanny and Peter fall in love. And they go, and like their favorite hangout spot is this large rock near campus in what is now Battle Park, at the time referred to as Piney Prospect. The trees weren't as grown, and it was more of an overlook, overlooked a small valley.
Mm-hmm.
There's another student that goes unnamed in all the versions of legends that I could find, who was apparently infatuated with old Fanny, like just madly in love with this young woman, and jealous of Peter Dromgoole because Fanny had allegedly spurned his advances and was like, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I like me some Peter Dromgoole. And the two dudes bumped into each other one night on campus. Harsh words are exchanged. A fight is about to break out when one of them, it's not said who, proposes a duel at Piney Point under a full moon to settle the matter.
Ooh.
Yeah. So students, as they do, begin talking amongst themselves, and rumors of the duel spread because there's a bit of a window of time here, right? Because like they got to do it under the full moon at midnight. So a crowd is there. There's witnesses to the duel. Here is where the story forks into several different versions. Version 1, Peter loses the duel. He gets shot. The witnesses place his body upon the same very large rock that he and Fanny would hang out at. It's all bloody. Somebody stays with the body. Some other people go get shovels. They bury him, and they put the rock on top of the spot. Everyone present takes a vow of silence because they realize they'll probably get in trouble for this. Nobody tells Fanny. Fanny is very confused about Peter's disappearance and wanders the area where they would hang out, right by the rock that he died on, his blood eternally having stained the rock. Unbeknownst to her that he is under the rock, she dies of a broken heart that summer.
That's the version told to me at my new student orientation.
Okay, we'll call that version 1.
Yeah.
Version 2, there was a duel, but it wasn't at night. It was in the morning.
Oh.
So they run into each other. They exchange harsh words. One of them says, let's duel it out. There was witnesses that said, oh, snap. So word begins to spread. The next morning, they're dueling, which makes a little bit more sense in my head than like trying to do it under the light of the full moon.
Yeah, traditionally duels were at dawn instead of in the middle of the night.
Right. So the next morning, Fanny hears about this from someone else that says, oh, do you know your boy Peter's about to duel that other guy that you don't like? So she rushes to Piney Point to try to stop it and be like, you idiots, knock it off. She gets there as Peter loses, sees him shot. He falls onto the big rock, which becomes permanently stained with his blood. The witnesses bury the body, put the rock on top of the body. It's immediately noticed in town that he's gone. His rival, the guy that won, starts spreading a rumor that Peter had run away to join the army, but there was enough witnesses that like that didn't really stick, and that's how the story got out. When people were like, "I was there. It was a duel." And again, this is back when duels were a thing, so they're like, "It was above board, but he's dead." Fanny dies that summer from a broken heart. Her last words being something along the lines of, Peter was lonely and she was going to meet him. And she just gives up the ghost.
Gosh.
And the figures of the two lovers can be seen in Piney Point, now Battle Park, ever since.
Damn.
Yeah, that's version 2.
Actually, the version I was told as a new student is a combination of versions 1 and 2 and some minor details. It's mostly 1 with some minor details from 2.
Version 3. There's 4 versions.
Okay.
That I found. There was no love story at all. Peter was a hothead who took offense at something said by a professor that was administering entrance exams to UNC. He refuses to take the test. Him and the professor get into this like war of words that escalates to the point where Peter goes, I challenge you to a duel. And the professor's like, all right, let's do this. And kills him.
Whoops.
That's it. I found that in an old John Harden book, only referenced by like 3 or 4 sentences as one of the potential versions. I found to be interesting. I'm like, I feel like they would at least tell the family if that was what happened. I don't know. Version 4. So there's no love story. There's a dance. There's a ball, a commencement ball. And there's an altercation between Peter and another individual, another dude at this dance. It ends at midnight. They go outside. They duel. He's dead. That's it. So that one you could kind of like interweave that when he and the unnamed guy ran into each other, that it happened at this ball. Like you could kind of like plug that in, I guess. But it doesn't really have all the pizzazz of The Rock or any of that. So yeah, versions 1 and 2 seem to be like the more prominent story.
And the version that I heard not only contained, it was mostly 1 with a little bit of 2, but it also contained the professor in that. In the version I was told, Fanny is the daughter of a professor on campus.
Oh, that's a nice detail. That's fun.
Yeah.
So best I can tell from what we'll say are reputable sources, archives and, state historical societies and stuff like that. I'm going to now tell what I believe to be the truest version of the story of Peter Dromgoole.
I cannot wait. I am so ready.
Peter Pelham Dromgoole existed and was a real person and was born into a somewhat influential family. His mother was named Sarah Crease Pelham, and his father was Edward Dromgoole II, a Methodist minister, physician, merchant, and planter, which is, a lot of jobs.
That's quite a resume.
Yeah. Congressman George C. Dromgoole of Virginia was his uncle. His younger brother, Edward Dromgoole III, graduated from UNC with honors in 1845, and in 1844 was one of the 3 editors of the first volume of University Magazine.
Okay. Wow. This is like serious real people connections to this story. I kind of expected you were going to say that none of them were real at all. Okay, please go on.
It's kind of the opposite of that. Like, I know we've run into that before with a lot of stuff. This is nope. He was the grandson of Reverend Edward Dromgoole, native of Ireland, who renounced Catholicism and after coming to America in 1770 became a Methodist minister and played an important part in the early growth of the Methodist denomination in North Carolina.
Okay. This is wild.
And he managed not to shake a single shoe at anyone. George Whitfield.
I don't know. He might have shaken a shoe once or twice.
Possibly. Who's to say? Certainly not me. All I know is that's not his greatest accomplishment in history.
Fair enough. Yes.
George Whitfield. So all that to say that Dromgoole was actually named after his maternal grandfather, Peter Pelham. So that's why it was Peter Pelham Dromgoole, who was for many years a clerk of the court for Greensville County, Virginia. So normal dude, worked a job.
Mm-hmm.
In 1802, the reason we need to acknowledge that guy is because he is the reason that Peter has the last name Dromgoole, because he moved his family in 1802 to Greene County, Ohio, where Peter's mother met and married Edward Dromgoole.
Okay.
So if old man Pelham hadn't moved to Ohio, we wouldn't have this legend. So he moves to Ohio. These kids in love get married. And then they move to North Carolina. And they reside for about 9 years at a place called the Oaks. It's a plantation that the Dromgoole family owned in Halifax County.
Okay.
Near the present Roanoke Rapids.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, what's it near?
And by 1832, Peter is showing a little bit of promise. So his father sends him off to the Franklin Male Academy in Lewisburg, North Carolina for college preparatory studies.
I'm just surprised at how much detail there is here. I'm kind of expecting you to pull out his report card,
There are several letters from Peter to his father written during this period in which he names the headmaster one John B. Bobbitt.
Okay. Please continue.
So that was 1832. So he goes and he gets the college prep classes. He's writing back and forth with his dad. And in January of 1833, his dad foots the bill to send him to Chapel Hill and says, all right, you got to go get into college. You got to go get in. He arrives. In a letter dated January 26th, 1833, Peter tells his father that he failed the entrance exam.
Whoops.
But he would hire a tutor and expected to get in June.
Okay. Good on him for continuing to try.
Yeah,
Are you suggesting maybe that, he had achieved the primary goal, which was to get away from home, as many of us who went to college had as our primary goal?
He apparently liked to party.
Yeah, well,
So there were several accounts that said that one of the reasons he didn't pass his exam was because he was just too busy playing cards and carrying on.
It's not a bad life necessarily.
Sure, when somebody else is paying the bills.
Exactly.
So Papa Dromgoole is not pleased by this. And they start a flame war via letter. And there's all these letters going back and forth. And there is a professor that is alleged to have sent a faculty member sent his father a letter that was like, hey, your boy's messing up.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So the last letter from Peter to his father says, I have determined never more to see that parent's face whom I have been treated with so little respect.
Goodness.
And I'm going to Europe. Destination unknown.
He's going to rage quit being his son.
Yeah, so he did.
Wow.
Because he was never seen or heard from again. He disappears under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind the majority of his possessions and a paper trail of having owed money to local merchants. It's serious enough that his uncle, future congressman at the time, judge in Virginia, George Dromgoole, who we mentioned earlier, family sends him down because, he's a judge. He's a person of influence. So they're like, hey, George, can you go to town and try to sort this for us? And you go, sure. I'm George Dromgoole. Where's Peter? So he does that for 3 weeks, talks to the roommate, all this stuff, no dice.
So you literally have the receipts in that, like, there are bills that this kid left unpaid.
Yeah.
And he just vanished into smoke.
Yep.
And then his uncle shows up and, like, basically plays detective.
Yep. Because it's
a movie of this. I need to write a novel of this is what I need to do.
The North Carolina Historical Society has preserved so much good stuff about this legend, and I'll get into some of the sources that people can find for free.
That's amazing. Okay, online. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm stunned.
Yeah, so George Dromgoole kicks around. He talks to the roommate. The roommate's like, yeah, I don't really know anybody that he had beef with or anything. His roommate is actually a person of pretty big influence, and we get to that in a little bit. So in 1837, approximately 4 years after Peter's disappearance, now Congressman George Dromgoole, this is important to note, kills a dude named Daniel Duggar in a duel on the banks of the Roanoke River in Northampton County, North Carolina. And that is likely where the duel stuff comes from.
I see. That's fascinating. Do you know what his
there is a Dromgoole duel.
Do you know what the grievance was in that duel?
I didn't look into it too hard. I can tell you it wasn't Fanny.
Okay.
Because I don't think Fanny existed.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm a little disappointed. Okay. Yeah.
He was a congressman, so, it's all above board-ish.
Yeah. Yeah. For the standards of the duel code.
So Dr. Kemp P. Battle of UNC fame.
Yeah.
In 1907, writes a 2-part series. Does 2 count as a series?
Sure.
I don't know. Writes 2 books on the history of the university. In the 1907 volume, he quotes Dromgoole's roommate as saying he was a moody youth and inclined to wildness. And I mentioned that the roommate was somebody somewhat important, right?
Yeah.
So the roommate was a dude named John Buxton Williams, who, along with his wife, whose first name was Temperance.
Oh, bless her.
They raised their nephew as their own, and that nephew was Elias Carr, who went on to become the 43rd governor of North Carolina.
Okay, well, like, you're not at all wrong about these people being influential. For people who are not familiar with UNC with UNC Chapel Hill or with the town of Chapel Hill, like, Battle it's the name of a well-known street. It's the name of a building. It's the name of a bunch of other stuff. And Carr is the name of, like, the town of Carborough. And there's a building on campus at UNC Chapel Hill named after him, and he was a governor and all that stuff.
So Battle is important. Battle's gonna come up a little bit later. So basically, his account, which is available for free on archive.org, we'll put a link in the show notes, basically just says this kid showed up, he liked to party, he didn't get in, he left. That's it. You can read the excerpt, and I have the link specifically to the page. It's 342, coincidentally.
All right.
If you want to fact check me on that, where they have Battle's thing. And I do want to note that Elias Carr is not the guy. He is of the Carr family, but he is different than the guy that Carborough is named after.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I did not know that. Sorry, that's my mistake.
Julian Carr, I think.
Maybe.
Spelled exactly the same. Undoubtedly related, but the Carr family, yeah. Crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
the amount of big names that are intertwined in this story definitely show me how the story has persisted.
Yeah.
So-
Interesting. I mean, it's like these people were, in a lot of ways, good and bad. These people were basically the Kardashians of their time. You know, like everybody knew their business. Everybody followed them. They were the people with the money and the power. They were the people with the influence. They got what they wanted, and people paid attention to their lives.
And that hot-headed disappearing Peter was probably, you know, some flavor story to
Definitely.
So in an October 1924 article in Carolina Magazine, which is a University of North Carolina publication, a fellow named Bruce Cotton, who is of Dromgoole relation, took issue with statements made by Battle about the Dromgoole disappearance. And he said, citing an 1834 letter from a Wilmington minister, that in the summer of 1833, Peter Dromgoole had actually joined the U.S. Army at Southport, outside of Wilmington.
Yeah.
Then called Smithville at the time.
Oh, okay.
Under the assumed surname of Williams, so he took his roommate's last name and joined the Army.
Interesting.
I couldn't find record of that, and no record was furnished by Mr. Cotton for the University Magazine. As we've discussed, records do get destroyed and lost.
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to write that off, that he just chose a new identity and went and started a new life.
Yeah. I like that better than almost any of the alternatives.
So university students love this legend, as we've established.
And a couple of other notes for people who might not be familiar with Chapel Hill, particularly, or with the campus of UNC Chapel Hill. It's worth noting that at the time that all this happened, the campus was very small. It was very geographically small. And the location was Piney Point location, where they went in the legend to go have their duels and also hang out, is an overlook of a valley beneath it. And at the time, that would have all been very open. But it's also something like a mile by foot from campus. Now, it's the sort of place that's far enough from campus that the average person probably does not know where it is. But at the time would have been a very great distance from campus. There was a graveyard that had been started for campus that was considered far enough away from campus to be where you'd put a graveyard. And this is probably twice as far from what was campus then as that.
Students love this stuff, though. They eat it up, they repeat it, and the legend, as we have discussed, has become a uniquely persistent thing for North Carolina lore. It was used in the 1873 novel Sea Gift by Edwin W. Fuller. It was used in the 1881 novel The Heirs of St. Kilda, a story of the Southern past by John Moore. In an 1892 poem, In Piney Prospect by L.R. Hamberlin, as a part of the University Magazine of the University of North Carolina. In a short story from 1903 titled Dromgoole by Martha Fowle Wiswall in the University Magazine. So see, it keeps popping up in the University Magazine.
Yeah.
In a 1924 article, Peter Dromgoole, in which much light is thrown on an interesting tradition.
What a great title.
In the story, The Vanishing of Peter Dromgoole in John Arden's The Devil's Tramping Ground.
Well, there you go.
In a 1957 article, The Duggar Dromgoole Duel by Henry W. Lewis in North Carolina Historical Review. And that is where they were just well, the congressman did the duel, not the kid. In The Castle Among the Pines in Philip Russell's 1972 book, These Old Stone Walls. In a February 1972 article titled Edwin W. Fuller and the Tall Tale by E.T. Malone Jr. in North Carolina Folklore. In the summer 1976 article, the University of North Carolina in Edwin Fuller's 1873 novel, Sea Gifts. So now we're starting to the snake's starting to eat its tail at this point.
Right, yeah.
In the North Carolina Historical Review. And then contemporarily in a million different websites, there's a cable TV, public access cable TV program out of New York that has done parody specials on it, which I don't really understand. I found that thanks to Wikipedia. There's just some guy just goofing on it. That's more on the castle and the secret society. So before we move on to the Order of the Gimghoul, I want to debunk one or two things. Per the UNC geology department, the red on the stone, because there really is a stone and it really does have red splotches on it. Those are rust stains from the metallic content of the stone and not several 100-year-old blood.
That's just what they want you to believe.
In researching this and talking casually to people, one person told me that they heard a legend that when Peter was killed, to move the body, they rolled him onto a large plank of wood that is now the front door of the castle.
Ooh, I like that twist on it.
It's a really nice twist that unfortunately does not line up and it's just not. It's just not based on when the castle was built, and it's not true at all. Yeah. But it is nice as far as like a fun story goes. So the rock. What about the rock? What about the castle? Who are the Order of the Gimghoul? There is a castle. There is a rock. There is a secret society.
And it is where Piney Point was.
Yes. The castle is not actually called Gimghoul Castle. It's called Hippol Castle.
Oh.
That's its official name.
I did not know that.
Yes, Hippol. So this one, I'm not going to entertain too much of the speculation about the secret society. They do not, to what I could find, worship the devil. They just like weird stuff. They're not like making sacrifices on the rock. These are all people that are above board, as far as I could tell, that are making contributions to the university and have been for some time. And they just like weird stuff and like having a secret society. It's like a super secret fraternity.
Yeah, it's a clubhouse. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. So in the fall of 1889, Edward Ray Martin, William W. Davies, which is an important last name in UNC culture.
Yeah, wow.
Shepard Bryan, Andrew Henry Patterson, and Robert Worth Bingham decide to form a secret society at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, available to anyone else by invitation only.
There you go. Also, 3 of those are building names from campus.
I'm telling you, like the connections to campus are amazing and really cool. However, they did not decide on the exact nature of their proposed society. They were just like, let's start a secret society, which to full disclosure, you and I have had that conversation.
Exactly. Like, I totally get the motivation there, and I totally get them being like, let's do this and let's never take it beyond the idea stage.
Right. But they're sitting in class. They were taking an American politics class taught by Dr. Battle, of all people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And in discussing politics and history, somehow Dr. Battle's like, oh, and then there's this legend about Peter Dromgoole. And they were just like, that's our theme. That's our secret society.
Nice.
And so formed the Order of Dromgoole. Realizing that, that's actually somebody's name, they quickly changed it to Order of Gimghoul.
Very wisely.
They still spelled it like Dromgoole, though, like Goole instead of the Ghoul.
Right. They spelled it like a name that's obscure instead of a D&D monster.
But then they changed it to be like a D&D monster. As explained by founder W.W. Davies, in accord with midnight and graves and weirdness.
My gosh, I love this guy now. I just am like, yes.
So they just liked monsters and stories and graves and the weirdness. They would like Arcane Carolinas, I dare say.
They would. Yeah, they would. They would love this stuff.
So E. Ray Martin, who we mentioned earlier, creates the initiation ritual, the Constitution, and the bylaws. They develop a secret cipher for, communicating messages and including stuff in the yearbook, which is private, which the old version, again, is available through UNC Library's Twitter feed of all places. It's pretty neat. And as the years pass, they consolidate beliefs and goals and customs, and they create this like combination of the Dromgoole legend and King Arthur values of knighthood and chivalry, like Arthurian legend.
Yeah.
So you'll sometimes see in writing in old yearbooks references to these individuals as Knights of the Order of Gimghoul.
Yes.
So that is how they refer to themselves, their members as individuals. Initially, I don't know if this has changed or not. I have no interest in doxing their paperwork. Initially, the rules were only male students, rising juniors or higher, and faculty were invited to join. And no list of members was provided until the end of year publication of the yearbook. It's like once a year they would do the list. And otherwise, there was no running tab of who was coming and going from the organization. In 1915, there was a Durham land company seeking to purchase Battle Park from the university. And the Order of the Gimghouls were like, well, that's kind of important to our whole shtick. So we don't want it to just like fall into a developer's hands. So they passed the hat and they all put in $50 each, and they bought the land.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, $50 from the 1930s, a rough estimation of the valuation now would be like $1,500 a person.
So they got enough money to like, put a down payment on the land. They made a counter offer to the university, and they were like, we got this money. We have these plans. Will you sell to us instead? And the university said, sure. So they sold its old lodge, which was a house at the corner of Rosemary and Boundary Street. And to raise money to build their new clubhouse, which is Hippel Castle, which began in 1924 at a cost of like $50,000. They did a three-way split. They donated a third of the land to the university under the intent that it always be a park. And that's how we got Battle Park. They sold a third of the land for homes. They subdivided it to create lots for homes. And that neighborhood is still there.
Yeah.
And then they kept enough land to build the castle on.
This is genius. And I just want to say good on them for the very first thing they did being looking to preserve this land. They conserved something really important to the character of campus and to the town.
It's certainly better than another Pokeball spot on Franklin.
Right.
Lord knows we need more bubble tea.
I just really hats off to them. I went into this assuming that what I was going to think was, it's just a bunch of spoiled rich kids. And
no, they've made contributions to the university.
Yeah, no, these people have done real good for the community.
So the castle itself took 1,300 tons of rough stone. It was designed by Nathaniel Cortland Curtis, an architect from New Orleans and a Gimghoul alumnus. He made the plans for the castle in 1924. In 1925, stonemasons were brought in from Valdez, North Carolina, near Morganton.
Yeah. I have many times driven past the sign for Valdez.
So they brought in a bunch of high-end stonemasons and 1,300 tons of rock and said, build us a castle. The castle was completed in 1926. And the masons also built what is referred to as the battle seat, a rough semicircular bench made from a freshman rock pile. The idea is that students would throw a rock on the pile when they walked by. It was a tradition. Typically freshmen when they would walk to Piney Point or Piney Prospect, they'd throw a rock on the pile. And so the masons also built the battle seat, which is a rough semicircular bench made from the freshman rock pile, which was a giant pile of rocks that kids would have to throw a rock on when they went to the point. So it's just a tradition. If you're going to the point, you pick up a rock along the way, you throw it in this pile. And the idea was that it was started in the 19th century by Dr. Battle.
Ah, okay.
So I feel like Dr. Battle probably knew the real score with what was going on here, because he's the one that kept telling the myth or the legend in the class.
Yeah.
The rock pile. He starts the rock pile. I'm like, this dude was definitely in this society, right?
He had to have been.
So let's see other names that are associated with the construction. Thomas Hickerson was a professor of civil engineering and applied mathematics at the university, as well as a Gimghoul alumnus. He not only assisted in the planning of the castle, but until his death in 1967, acted as a custodian, advisor, and primary contact for the order.
Interesting. Okay.
So again, they weren't hiding that they exist at any point during,
it
was just like you had to ask to get in or they had to ask you. So Charlie Schaefer and professor of English, Lyman A. Cotton, remember that name? That's of Gimghoul lineage, succeeded Dr. Hickerson in these duties. Dr. Cotton joined the Gimghouls in the 1930s and was a trustee of the order from 1952 until his death in 91.
Wow.
There's a significant contribution made to the upkeep of the castle and the land by George Watts Hill Sr., another alumnus and trustee of the order. He passed away in 1993, which is coincidentally the same year that the Gimghoul neighborhood was declared a historic district.
Interesting. I just want to note, again, you've used a couple of names that are the names of buildings on campus.
Mm-hmm. That's the secret society. They exist. They don't worship the devil, as far as I can tell. They seem like really nice people that are trying to contribute to local culture.
Yeah.
I did write them a nice letter. I sent it to the address of the castle and an associated P.O. box. I did write them a nice letter. I sent it to the castle. I sent it to the P.O. box associated with the castle, letting them know that we were going to be doing this, and that if they wanted to comment, we would love to have them contribute something. Unfortunately, I did not receive any, carrier pigeons or scrolls sealed with wax or other old-timey ways of communicating. So this is our best. This is our best job at explaining the legend of Peter Dromgoole from a historical perspective and shining a light to the best of our ability while respecting their privacy on the folks that own that awesome castle.
Yeah, I am a little disappointed to find out the no cowled rider galloped past your house and threw a scroll at it or something. They'd have quite a way to ride. So do you want to hear some weird stuff that we used to say about Gimghoul when I was an undergraduate?
Yes.
So when I was an undergraduate in the 90s, in the early 90s especially, let's just say I wasn't exactly Peter Dromgoole in terms of my academic mishaps, but I can relate to where he was at. So I was a student getting a 4-year degree for significantly longer than 4 years. And I was on the slow plan. So, I was on the take your time plan for getting a degree. But in the early 90s especially, the story was, so the campus newspaper is the Daily Tar Heel. There was, a classifieds section in the back of the Daily Tar Heel every day. And the story was that occasionally on Friday mornings in that Friday edition, there would be an ad in the classifieds saying, "Party at Gimghoul tonight." And that if you wanted into the order, you had to be brave enough to show up and knock on their door and ask to go into the party. Of course, I never saw an ad like that in the Daily Tar Heel, and I looked a lot of Fridays. I know no one who ever actually saw that except for the person who told me that, and I'm not totally sure that I believe her. And I don't know anybody who tried it. Another thing that we used to hear was that they would do, quote, weird rituals around the rock. I have no idea if that's true or not because I did not go stake out their rock. But if they did, it's their yard and they can do whatever they want. But you mentioned the battle seat. That was a well-known thing among the weirder people that I knew.
Okay.
Like the average person was never going to hear about that in the new student orientation tour, but I knew people who knew about the battle seat. It is very real. I won't say that I ever did this or that anybody specific that I know ever did this, but I know for a fact that it is possible to go skirt the edge of their property along the tree line, then go sit in the battle seat and look out over sort of what at the time would have been just forest. There wasn't anything there. And at the time also, like you said, the trees would have been a lot smaller, so the view would have been clearer, and it would have been an amazing view. And I know lots of people who, in the absence of something better to do or money to do it with, would go, basically hike out there and go hustle down the edge of their property line and have a seat on the battle seat and spend a few minutes just sort of meditating with the view and then leave.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I bet there's got to be people that still do, kids that still do that, right?
I'm sure that there are. So
this legend is not dying anytime soon. I feel very confident that Peter Dromgoole will continue to live on through freshman orientation. It is my sincere hope that the Knights of the Order of Gimghoul continue to exist because I think the world needs more stuff like that.
Yeah. The weirdest legend that we had about them was that they did one public thing a year. Okay. And it was that at Halloween, they would dress in big spooky robes and march across campus and do a ritual in the Forest Theater, which is coincidentally through Battle Park from the castle. I don't think that was true personally, but that was always the thing that we heard was that on Halloween, they would, march out there and do their spooky rituals and then go back home.
Man, I wish I didn't like Halloween to the point where I want to do other stuff besides go sit in the theater and wait.
Well, see, that's the part that I found a little unbelievable about it. Halloween in Chapel Hill traditionally is an all hands on deck, everybody goes and crams Franklin Street event. And I just don't think there are that many people, especially people who are probably going to be partying because they're undergraduate students who want to spend their Halloween doing anything other than Halloween parties.
All right.
That's also, though, one of the things that makes it a beautifully unverifiable legend.
Totally.
So part of the reason why I know about this supposed march is that when I was shortly after I had graduated, it wasn't very long after I graduated, on, something like LiveJournal or Blogspot or something like that, somebody who was an undergraduate student at UNC, or so they said, posted an account of having followed them when they did this march and then chased them through the woods at the end to try to reveal who they were or what they were up to. I don't remember, but it was somebody's creating this sort of very melodramatic account of their own experience without a really solid explanation for why they did it or what they did in the course of it, other than they reached the climax of the story, which is that they're chasing Gimghouls through the woods, and eventually one turns and points at them and says this kid's full name and says, "We, the Gimghouls, curse you and you must leave us alone, etc. Bah!" and that he was so scared, and he turned around and ran back home all the way, and now he's worried that something will happen to him. Well, it was obviously posted as a piece of fiction to just sort of be somebody who was making it up to be dramatic. But it got a little traction among students and recent alumni when it got posted. And I think the Daily Tar Heel might have run a story about the fact that somebody posted this, not saying that it happened, but saying that somebody was claiming that it had happened. And I've always found that very amusing, because that tells you how much of this story, it tells you how much the story is sort of entrenched in the imagination of people in and around UNC Chapel Hill. And it also tells you how much it has been embroidered and how easy it is to embroider, because so much of it is so suggestive to the imagination. It doesn't take a huge leap to go from, I've heard that there's this legend, to I've heard that there's a secret society built around this legend, to this legend chased me through the woods.
Right.
I think anybody who has, studied Sasquatch hunters or, whatever, that sort of thing, they all know somebody who says that they've had that sort of experience, and it's totally undisprovable and totally unverifiable.
Undisprovable and unverifiable pretty much sums up the entire experience of talking about everything we just talked about. Except that Peter Dromgoole seems to have been a real person.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to me. That's so great. Thank you for doing that research. That's wild. And again, thank you for pointing out the fact that these are not bad people. They're not doing anything that's bad. They're doing real good for the community, and people need to respect their privacy, to which they have every right.
So let's wrap it up. Peter Dromgoole existed at some point. The Order of the Gimghoul is real. I don't know how many people are in it now, because like you said, I don't know that yearbooks are a thing, but I mean, as recently as the early 2000s, it was still a thing, based on the article on, I think it was NCpedia said. I would imagine that, we know that they're still a thing because they closed the archives just a year or so ago. Somebody had to go and close the archive. So that's that.
I just hope that whoever is in it now recognizes sort of the historical legacy that they have inherited, and that they go forth and choose to do as much good in the community as was done by their predecessors.
Yeah, totally. With that in mind, you could do good for our community by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. No, but seriously, thank you for listening. This is the end of the episode. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you use. Check out our social media pages, and we hope to talk to you at our Halloween party.
Yeah, talk to you then. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, give us a rating, leave a comment. If you didn't like it, send us an email and tell us why. If you're not wrong, we'll try to fix it.
And if you're interested in award-winning speculative fiction, including science fiction, urban fantasy, and horror, find me, Michael G. Williams, at www.michaelgwilliamsbooks.com, and check out Falstaff Books at falstaffbooks.com.
If you'd like to pick up some Arcane Carolinas merch, look at behind-the-scenes info, pictures, videos, stuff like that, all the things that get cut, check out arcanecarolinas.com, where you can get access to our Patreon, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, all that in one place, including the merch store. Buy a shirt.
Clothe your body.
Drape your body in our wares.
Be our living billboards.